Hello, and welcome to the Quick Flick Critic reviews and interviews. I'm your host, John Smistad, and these are my takes on films both new and old and spanning a wide array of genres, plus conversations with the coolest people in indie entertainment. Now, let's rock with this one, shall we? Today's guest is filmmaker and actor Peter O'Brien. He is going to be speaking to us today from Lincoln, Nebraska. Peter, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure to have you on the show on this episode. I have seen a couple of Peter's movies, going back to 2012, Misery Loves Company. I just saw that movie, enjoyed it. I've actually enjoyed both of these movies. And a little while ago, I saw his 2018 film, Running Through Darkness. We'll talk about both of those films. Peter is also right now producing a documentary about the heavy metal band Rip House, which disbanded. This is a New York City group in the early 90s, and he's kind of redoing, he'll talk about this, redoing what he had done years ago in terms of a documentary about the band, and that is set to be released in the spring is the target, Peter says, so can't wait to see that as well. Peter, I want to start off with going back to 2012, Misery Loves Company. This is a film that you wrote, directed, and starred in. That's a hell of a lot to chew off. I think this was your first feature film, is that not correct?
It was my first narrative feature. My first feature was the earlier version of the documentary that I'm currently reworking, but my first narrative feature coming from a script, Misery Loves Company was that.
Okay. Talk about the film, if you will, Peter, and specifically, here's a guy, he's a loner. I can relate. I'm a loner. I'm not lonely. I'm married, I have kids, but I've been a loner my whole life by choice. And I like it. I'm comfortable with myself. I can entertain myself. I related strongly to Brian as the character in this film. Is there at least an element of you in the character? Because there is me.
Of course.
Of
course. Yeah, I mean, I think, honestly, like if we're being honest, I think there's a little bit of Brian in all of us.
Yeah.
And I think over the course of time, that maybe gets weeded out or suffocated in some cases based on the decisions that you make. But I think Brian, he represents the film Misery Loves Company is really a coming of age story.
Yeah.
At its core. And it's Brian's story, so how he kind of finds his way through a better understanding of himself. Now, how people relate to it depends upon their experiences. But me personally, I mean, yes, of course, I wrote it, so there is an element of Brian in me. But there's also elements of the other characters, Cliff, even Veronica and Allison and Les and Wayne, all those characters. I mean, I created them, so they come from a part of me. And where that part comes from is from my world and my experiences and my friends. I mean, it's really, a lot of it came from just real life experiences that I had or I shared with other people or that they shared with me. Which is one thing that I feel makes it a relatable story. It is very real in its presentation and approach, even though we rely heavily on Brian's imagination through a good part of the story.
Yeah.
That dives back deeper into his character as a projectionist. So it's kind of drawing on themes.
Yeah, that was cool.
Well, but Brian, I mean, there's always a part of you that doesn't want to go to the party, even if all your friends are there, you'd rather stay home and read a book, or for whatever reason, or you might have some things on your mind and you need to take a long walk to just sort them out. Some people don't do that. Some people go to the bar, and that's fine too, because misery loves company.
There you go, hence the title. I also saw Running Through Darkness, which again is it's a different theme in this movie. It's pretty dark, very dark, about a guy who fell in love with a woman, didn't work out, she comes back into his life, and things get really sinister, quite frankly, in terms of what she wants her ex-lover to do. But again, there's an element of real here. This probably wouldn't happen in your life, Peter, but it could happen, because these are people who are living lives that are not out of the realm of, well, that's pure fiction. They're not. Talk about the experience of making Running Through Darkness. And clearly in this film, in my assessment, from my viewpoint, you were more confident as a filmmaker in terms of what you were doing, the characters, the plot, and the overall flow and production of the film. Share with us your thoughts about Running Through Darkness, if you would, please.
Sure. I mean, of course, Running Through Darkness was a few years later, and I had been working throughout that time on various projects, either doing freelance work or making short films in between Misery Loves Company and Running Through Darkness. So as I just continue to work, of course, there's no substitute for experience. I mean, if you keep at anything, you're going to improve. You get out what you put into it. And that goes, of course, for filmmaking. The other saving grace for Running Through Darkness was I didn't have to act in it.
I was going to say, you didn't appear in the film. I think you were in every scene of Misery Loves Company.
Just about, yeah. I think there was a couple of scenes in the office between Cliff and the theater manager that I wasn't in. But other than that, I was in pretty much every scene.
That's remarkable. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you weren't in Running Through Darkness as an actor.
With Running Through Darkness, it was, just you're absolutely right. I mean, I personally, when I look at the two, honestly, Misery Loves Company, a lot of people, they'll say like, oh yeah, you got to check out my film. It's the greatest film. And it's like, I mean, if you like film, yeah. And if you like independent film, totally. And if you like low budget independent film,
I do.
Don't see this movie.
I hone in on it, man. Yeah.
This
please do.
You.
Yeah.
With Misery Loves Company, we really kind of pushed the limit of what we could possibly do, and that kind of carried forward into Running Through Darkness. I would say Running Through Darkness was probably the most fun I had making a feature film.
This is I said sinister. It's a lively and a really engaging film, and you put yourself in the main character, the guy's shoes. It's like, God, what the hell would I do? I'd be scared stiff. But this guy, you put him in momentum, man, and dude, deal with it, because this is your life right now. I thought that was really awesome, the way you did that.
Thank you. Yeah, that was one of the goals for Running Through Darkness. Was I literally wanted to start the movie running, like we're just running in, like like Misery Loves Company starts walking in and out of a situation.
Yeah.
Running Through Darkness, we're running into the situation, and it's almost like when you come into a room and there's like too much information to take in at once, so you just focus on the one thing.
Yep.
The script was written inside of a month. And then I just started scouting and securing locations and casting and rehearsing and finding all the props we needed. The biggest thing was probably the Mustang.
Yeah, that cool slab, man. That was one of the characters in the film.
It really was. It was almost like and even the music that's always blaring out of it, which coincidentally is Rip House.
Oh, it is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like a Peter and the Wolf kind of a thing. Like you see the Mustang or you hear the song and you know the villain is near.
Exactly. You are a multi-talented dude. You obviously write and direct films. You act. I noticed in Misery Loves Company you were listed as a set decorator too, which is pretty incredible. And then you're a musician.
Yeah.
Did you play any of the music, or was that you in any of the music that we heard in Misery Loves Company?
In Misery Loves Company, I composed the main theme and the opening credits. which also comes back as a love theme later on, or a slow theme later on in the movie.
Yeah.
And then there is a love theme when the two main characters are up on the cliffside.
Yeah.
There's really minimal score in Misery Loves Company. A lot of it came from music and musicians that I know or that I've worked with. There is one song that my band plays that's in the bar scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, the music in Misery Loves Company, there's very minimal score, but the score that does exist, I wrote and worked on with my wife.
Cool.
And then the two of us wrote the entire score for Running Through Darkness and some of the original songs in it.
You primarily play bass, is that correct?
Yeah. I started out with the guitar, but I've gravitated more towards bass. There's something about it that I feel like a lot of people overlook, and they think like, oh, it's just bass, you just follow the guitar.
It's damn hard. Playing bass well is really hard. And you play
if you want to play bass well, I mean, it's a challenge, and it's something that I kind of work at like almost every night. I'll just, at the end of the day, that's when I get my practice time, and I'll sit for an hour or more and just run through either stuff I'm working on, or I'll work on technique or writing. It's a passion. I love it. And so I was happy to utilize it, especially on the score for Running Through Darkness. It's a darker movie, so I wanted to go with deeper tones. So it's very bass driven.
Yeah.
And even the main character in the movie plays the bass because I have a bass.
Yeah.
So it was an easy prop to get a hold of.
Absolutely.
And just add an element to that character as well.
That was cool. It's cool. So you're working on a documentary now, shining spotlight, the spotlight on a heavy metal band that has broken up decades ago now, called Rip House. You're revisiting the documentary that you did years ago. Talk about that, please, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. I consider this to be a renovation because the band is Rip House, and that's a theme throughout the band. I am calling this the Rip House renovation. So the documentary is getting completely gutted and reworked and built up from a new foundation, utilizing the original as a foundation. I always kind of considered the original documentary to be my bachelor's degree in filmmaking. I considered Rip House, the original documentary, to be my bachelor's degree in filmmaking because of how much I learned and all the experience. I considered Misery Loves Company to be my master's in filmmaking.
Yep.
And Running Through Darkness, let's just call that my PhD in independent, guerrilla, micro-budget filmmaking.
Understood.
And I have about 16 minutes, but I'm going to tell you right now, this 16 minutes is better than the whole of the previous movie.
Yeah, I'm sure you know it is, yeah.
Yeah. The band originates from a town called Congers in New York, and I am originally from Congers, but I was too young to know who they were. My brother is 14 years older than me. Okay. So he knew the band and the band at the time, and hanging out with my brother one day in about 1996, so I was around 13 years old.
Yep.
He was living with a friend of his, a roommate, and his roommate had a cassette tape of Rip House, and so we listened to it, and it was just like,
yeah.
Because at that time, this is very important, at that time, music came from California,
yep,
New York City, or Seattle. That was it. That was where music came from. Yeah.
Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Queensryche.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to know that music could come from my hometown and like quality music, when I heard the recordings, I was like, wow, those guys recorded that like here, and they went to the same high school that I'm going to go to, and they go to the same like pizzeria that I go to. Like, these are real people.
Yeah.
So it kind of changed my whole perspective of the world and like what's possible. And like, it doesn't matter where you live or where you come from. It matters what you do and what you put into it. So that was a big thing in my personal development as a person and as an artistic, creative person. And then when I got old enough, I was visiting that same friend of my brother's, and he had some video footage. And so then I saw the video footage and I was like, wow, we could really like do something with this material. They had a bunch of concerts that were like filmed. They had a music video that was professionally made. It aired on local television. And then all of their recordings were recorded semi-professionally, I mean, in studios. So we got a hold of all the material, and then it's just a matter of cataloging it, organizing it, scanning it, and then doing a lot of interviews, and then tracking down the band members and befriending them and becoming, you know, close, and then doing interviews with them, and just a lot of legwork, a lot of research. But I feel like it's paying off nicely. I'm happy with the result.
Yeah.
I hope everybody's happy with the result.
Cool. Very cool. Wish you all the best with that. Peter, thank you so much for being a part of the show. We really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was great talking with you.
Absolutely. Again, folks, that's Peter O'Brien talking to us from Lincoln, Nebraska. Hey, thanks for watching the Quick Flick Critic reviews and interviews. Now subscribe if you haven't already. You can read all of my flick reviews on my blog, the Quick Flick Critic, at this URL you see displayed on your screen. So until next time, I'm John Smistad. Here's to a great day. And as always, make it count. Goodbye, everybody.
Aww.